Kamen Rider is the third live-action movie for Hideaki Anno's Shin series. If you know Hideaki Anno, you probably know him best as the creator of Neon Genesis Evangelion and the Eva Rebuild movies. And honestly, a lot of people don't seem to like this Shin movie from Anno. But I, for one, love it, and I'm going to tell you why. Anno was actually a huge fanboy of Kamen Rider, in addition to Ultraman, and he commented on how he loved the Kamen Rider 1 series from 1971. This movie takes direct influence from the original Kamen Rider series and the manga. If anyone watched Kamen Rider 1, you know how dark, gritty, and badass this first Kamen Rider series was. And that's exactly what this movie is, with a Hideaki Anno flair. That's not the only reason this movie is good though. This movie dives head on into mental health values, particularly mental health for men and for family. Takeshi Hongo, the real name of Kamen Rider 1, talks a lot about how fighting as a rider brings him a lot of pain. Ruriko explains to him that he must deal with the pain to bring happiness to others. One thing I noticed about Hongo and Ruriko's relationship in this movie, upon repeat viewings, is that the relationship oddly starts off a lot like Shinji and Asuka from Evangelion. Ruriko tends to ridicule and belittle Hongo's capabilities and prowess, and questions his resolve to do what's necessary to stop the organization Shocker. She even seems to subtly taunt Hongo when doing this. This of course reminds me of Asuka taunting Shinji, the big difference being she did it much more outwardly to Shinji than Ruriko did to Hongo. Kinda makes me wonder though, did Anno write the relationship dynamics of these two characters to be like Shinji and Asuka in the first half of the movie on purpose? Or was it unintentional and it just happened to come out that way from his subconscious? The augmented beings, or augs, created from Shocker, talk a lot about how hurting and unaliving humans bring them a lot of happiness. This movie is very plentiful in talking about pain and happiness. Ruriko is the daughter of the late scientist who gave Takeshi Hongo his abilities as a grasshopper aug and turned him into the Kamen Rider. Ruriko is very stoic and also disapproving of her late father. She considered him to be a fool for being too optimistic and considering the creation of Hongo as the Kamen Rider to be his final masterpiece to defend humankind, a fool's dream. Ruriko feels very disillusioned because she knows about Shocker's plans, how it operates, and what her brother, operating within Shocker, is planning for humanity. Her brother's plan to send all of humanity to the Habitat realm feels like a direct parallel to the Human Instrumentality Project. Even the Shocker organization utilizing AI to find perfect happiness for humanity and the creation of augmented beings feels a lot like NERV. NERV parallels Shocker with their creation of Evas, experimenting with the Evas technology, human cloning, and the Human Instrumentality Project. They are both also very shadowy organizations. Since this movie talks a lot about pain and happiness, you'd think that Anno is using these human sensations to drive his work. Like, for example, Anno tends to give his production crews a hard time, and here was no exception. He continuously asked the action choreography director of Shin Kamen Rider to reshoot action scenes since early cuts he said felt staged. A lot of the action scenes in Shin Kamen Rider were filmed on iPhones. But back to talking about the actual movie now. The artificial beings in this movie that are introduced to us who are working for Shocker are given the mission to figure out how to bring humans out of despair and lead humankind to happiness. This is certainly an interesting idea sprinkled in the movie, and again, comparable with NERV's ultimate mission in Evangelion. That series always delved into the despairs of Shinji and how he was always struggling to come out of those despairs. This goes for other characters in that series too, such as Misato and Asuka, who we caught glimpses of their inner struggles and despairs. But back to Shin Kamen Rider. The way Hongo struggles with his kind nature and having to fight and unalive others kinda reminds me of Shinji from Evangelion 2, oddly enough. And even Ruriko taunting Hongo, questioning if he can overcome his despair, can unalive again, and says that he's too kind, once again reminds me of Asuka and her dynamics with Shinji. Man, Anno, are you just shoving Shinji and Asuka in our faces? But unlike Asuka, though, Ruriko is more cold as steel in nature. I overall really enjoyed the fight scenes in this movie, and have to take note, once again, how much of the fight scenes were shot on iPhones, while other cameras were used on set too, such as GoPros. Anno really doesn't cower away from experimental techniques in filmmaking. All the shots, music, and directing choices are very much a part of Hideaki Anno's directing signature here, and I appreciate how the movie even touches on men's mental health and wellness. Anno is known to touch on mental health quite heavily in Evangelion, but it is just as present here. So I don't understand why a lot of people didn't like this movie. Perhaps they miss these core messages because they feel the movie is too overstuffed. Seeing Ruriko build up trust in Hongo gradually as the movie progresses was also something very delightful to watch. We get more backstory of her character and her history intertwined with Shocker as she and Hongo encounter more of the Shocker's Augs. I really enjoyed seeing the character progression between Hongo and Ruriko. Takeshi Hongo also steps it up to be the rider despite not wanting to engage in more violence, but makes a choice that he is not like his father and that someone's got to do it. I think this is really the big standout moment of the movie. The second Kamen Rider introduced to us in this movie is also very dynamic with Hongo, the way he bounces off of him, making him very entertaining to watch. There is an emotionally charged character death in this movie that will either make or break you while watching it. It almost breaks Hongo, but it also makes him reflect on the life of his father, who served as a police officer. It's his father's choices that make Hongo want to differentiate his own choices from his father's and carry on the legacy as Kamen Rider. Anno really knows how to pack an emotional punch in just about all of his works, going as far back as Gunbuster and Nadia until now. His writing and characterizations are filled with a certain emotional depth and intelligence, since he's not just telling stories, but making commentary on the human condition. Anno has a knack for taking a geeky property and actually injecting thoughtful and mature tones into it. If you haven't seen Shin Kamen Rider, I highly recommend you check it out.